Tucker Carlson and his silly guest here are going to argue in favor of white privilege.
Check your privilege. That's the left's newest charge. But one man is standing up against this attack in an opinion piece called "I Checked My Privilege and It's Just Fine." He says in the piece, quote, "The plain fact is what they understand to be privilege is really just what regular people understand as a consequence. It's a consequence of hard work, of delaying gratification, and of sacrifice. It's not a function of skin tone or the number of vowels in your name. It's a function of character." Well, joining us now is the author of that piece, trial lawyer Kurt Schlichter. Kurt, thanks a lot for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
So what does that mean,
morning, Tucker?
Check your privilege, check your white privilege? What is that?
It's the latest leftist insanity. It's a way to grab the moral high ground that they don't deserve by sticking, the round peg that's you into this square hole that's based solely on, where your great-great-great-grandparents came from. It's ridiculous.
Well, and it's also, it's silly on its face. Some white people are privileged, some aren't. Some black people are privileged, some aren't. This strikes me as, by definition, a racist attack in that it's making a generalization, a negative one, based on skin color.
Well, absolutely. It's un-American and it's immoral. It makes you forever and ever stuck into one category as good or bad, not based on anything that you've done or haven't done, but based on, where some obscure relative came from on the map. Look, it's not an argument, Tucker. What it is, it's an attempt to shut down argument. And it's an attempt to make them adjudicate your value. It's really ridiculous, and it's time we stand up to it.
So here's the way you stood up to it. In your piece, you said this: call, check your privilege. Response, what you call privilege is just me being better than you.
Oh, that's great. That's great. No, there is no white privilege. White people are just better. Oh, well, thank you. What a strong argument you laid out there. So I was jotting down some of the words that they used. They're like, it's silly. The idea of white privilege is silly, and it's racist, and it's ridiculous, and it's un-American, and it's immoral, and it's not an argument. So they're hurling all these insults and all these words, but did you notice something? They didn't provide an argument. As he's saying about, the people who point out that white privilege exists, as he's saying that, their point is silly and they're not making an argument, he's not making an argument. Again, the words I heard, it's silly, it's racist, it's ridiculous, it's un-American, it's immoral. Care to explain why that is? You didn't explain why. You're just like, well, it means that we just work harder and we're just better and fuck you if you disagree. What is that? That's not true. That's not borne out by the evidence. I didn't hear you cite any studies, any statistics, any numbers, any facts. You're talking out of your fucking ass. All right? And let me try to explain to these jackasses, which unquestionably will not get through their thick heads, which are made of reinforced concrete. Okay? Let me try to explain to them what white privilege is. White privilege is being given the benefit of the doubt for different things. So, for example, Bristol Palin having a baby when she's a teenager with a deadbeat dude who didn't marry her is considered all-American to these different people during the primary race. They said, no, you can't bring it up. How dare you politicize this? This is a private family issue. Don't do any low blows here. It's an all-American family. You should love them. You should accept them. Okay? Meanwhile, if a black family did it, say Obama when he was running for president, okay, if he had a teenage daughter who got knocked up and had a baby from a guy who didn't marry her, okay, and he's a loudmouth who says all this shit on Facebook like, yeah, I'm a thug, I just want to do some thug living and all that other shit like what's-his-face was saying, the guy who knocked up Bristol, Levi something or whatever. Imagine that happened. Do you think that the conservatives would have responded the same way? Do you think that mainstream America would have responded the right way? Oh, it's a low blow, you can't bring it up, it's private family issues, it's off the table, don't do any low blows. What would they have done? What would they have done? Oh my God, the destruction of the family unit and irresponsible behavior and typical. You know how they are, those black people always fucking, not using protection. So the idea of white privilege is when a white person does an act, you view it as this is distinct, this is an individual human being, they're responsible for their own choices, and it is what it is. When it's a black person that does the same thing, you attribute it to their DNA or their genetics, and you say, oh, it's the whole group. That's just how they are. That's just how they naturally are. They're just not as smart as us. They're just not as hardworking as us. That's what white privilege is. White privilege is the idea that we've covered from the multiple studies on the show. So, for example, the online sales study where it's a black hand holding an iPod versus a white hand holding an iPod. Same information, same price. The white hand gets all the hits. The bicycle study that ABC did when they had a black person and separately a white person and separately a white woman try to unchain a bicycle and they had difficulty doing it. And what happened? When the white guy did it, people just didn't pay attention. They just walked by and didn't care. When the white girl did it, people actively tried to help her without even knowing if it's her bike. She's trying to unchain it. She can't do it. But people are like, let me help you. When it's a black guy who does it, people immediately thought he was stealing it. Okay? That's white privilege. The inherent assumptions that everybody has if you're of a certain race. Or how about the resume study? Traditional black name on a resume versus traditional white name, same information. White name gets hits immediately. Black name gets no hits, even if you leave it up there for a few months. Or how about the breaking into a car experiment, a video that went viral on YouTube? A guy just decided, hey, you know what? Let me try me and my friend. What we'll do is we'll try to break into a car and see if we get any responses. Because some people, people might think, hey, he's just trying to get his own keys out of there or whatever, or he's working for a company and he's trying to open the door for a reason. Or they might think they're trying to steal it. Who knows, right? Well, when it was the white kid, cops literally drove by, saw it, and paid no attention and kept driving. When it was the black kid, immediately police showed up, threw him against the wall and handcuffed him. Okay? This is what white privilege is. Now, look, nobody's arguing that the system that we live under today is as bad as it was in 1956, when the South was segregated, interracial marriage was banned, and, there are all these deep problems, okay? Nobody's saying it's as bad as it was then. Just like then, it wasn't as bad as when there was just open slavery. But the idea that racism doesn't exist anymore, and the idea that white privilege isn't a thing, that's just, you're living with your head up your own ass. You're doing confirmation bias, Tucker and the other silly white guy. They're looking for excuses to say that white privilege doesn't exist. They're acting like race means nothing when there's this mountain of evidence that race means a tremendous amount. Even the perception, we brought this up the other day. It's one of my favorite points to bring up in this debate. That, look, I grew up in an upper middle class family in New Rochelle, New York, and you saw this with older white fathers, like our friends, like our generation, totally not racist because we were in a multicultural environment our entire lives, right? But you saw it with the fathers of the white kids, where if there is a black kid who does really, really well in school, gets into an Ivy League school or whatever, bust their ass, they go, affirmative action kid, got lucky, didn't deserve it. But then the same guy, if he sees a black kid who essentially said, fuck it, I can't make it by in this world anyway because the system's geared against me, right? And they say, I'm gonna drop out of school and do whatever, sell drugs or get a part-time job, and it is what it is. Then the father goes, typical, thug, what'd you expect? So wait, it's a lose-lose. If they succeed, you say fuck you. If they don't succeed, you say fuck you. That's white privilege. An old white guy, an old conservative white guy, and a lot of them I've come across in my life where I've seen it, they wouldn't do that if it's a white kid. There's plenty of white kids who drop out and say, fuck this, I'm done, I don't give a shit. And you have these guys making excuses for the kids. Or a kid does well and it's all on his own merits. This is white privilege, okay? And for Tucker Carlson and this other clown to just throw around words, that's all they're doing. Their mouths are moving, but there's no substance coming out. It's silly, it's racist, it's ridiculous, it's un-American, it's immoral, it's not an argument. They say all of that, and ironically, it's them that's not coming up with an argument, So to them, they're saying the idea of even mentioning that white privilege might exist is racist. Give me a break, man. I just gave you facts that show that white privilege exists.